Hello everyone, or Sabadi as they say in Laos. Yes, what a week. Been very full on and busy, but very cool. So lots to talk about. And I realised in my last video that I couldn't recall names of places and things like that. So I have paper written down, so bear with me while I look down and refer to the sheet so that I can give you proper names from here on out for things and places I've seen. And yeah, so in the last video we were leaving Chiang Mai and went to Chiang Kong, which was a very small village, and we spent the evening there and had an evening at the Rebar where we had a meal.
Now we've got advice. See that chili there? Don't eat it. What's the advice? Don't eat the chili.
And some drinks and karaoke, and the owner of the bar, she was really lovely. It was a great evening, great people that were there. It was heaps of fun. We had a great time. And so the next day we jumped on a boat and crossed the border into Laos and made a 2-day trek down the Mekong River in a boat. And it was fantastic. The food that they put on for us on the boat was absolutely great. The scenery was amazing, and it was very comfortable. They had like bus seats and areas to lie down as well. So it was a good way just to cruise down the river and get to know each other with people on the tour. And yeah, and just sort of relax and take it all in. Really good. And so at the end of the first day's trek, we stopped in Mang Pakbang, and which is a small village, and we had a wander through there, checked out like a local temple where a couple of monks live, and yeah, apparently they only eat for 12 hours. They have like a window where they can eat, and then they can't eat. They must fast. So yeah, and people from the village offer them food and things that they need, and that's how they get by. So that was really interesting. And their housing, because it's quite hilly there. They have very simple wooden houses and that are like on quite steep hillsides built on there, which was really interesting to see. Other than that, it's quite small, so not a lot happening there. The food was great there as well. Actually, all through Laos, the food's been really amazing, and unsuspectingly so too. Some of the places I've sort of gone to and go, I don't know if I want to eat anything from here, but can't complain at all. It's fabulous. So don't be afraid to get stuck in. So yeah, stayed the night there. Next morning we went back to the boat. Now where we stayed to the boat was probably only a 2-minute walk. Within that time we were saturated. It was raining that hard in the morning, as you can see from this clip, as we started off down the Mekong. Luckily it didn't last too long, so it cleared up fairly quickly as we started moving, so that was really good. Yes, carried on. We did actually see an elephant working, pulling a log down from the forest down to the riverside, yeah, which was pretty cool. And lots of bamboo fishing poles with nets tied to them, trawler nets sort of sitting in there catching fish and whatever. There's heaps of them, so which is obviously how they make their living and feed themselves. Same with going past and seeing people living on the hillside, which are known as the Hamang people. Very steep mountainous hillsides, and they plant sticky rice because it doesn't need so much water, and other crops in that. But like how they build houses and farm on those slopes is like it's incredible. It must be very, very hard work to do, and they're quite isolated too in a lot of places. So yeah, we carried on. Just before we got into the next stop, we pulled into the Pakao Caves, which are I think known as the Temple Caves. So again, being a Buddhist, there's about 4,000 or so statues or trinkets and things put in these caves for offering to Buddha. And so there's a lower cave and then a higher cave. Really interesting, cool to go in and have a look, and some local people selling some wares and stuff as well, like bracelet things and other bits and pieces as well. But yeah, that was really cool to check out. So then we carried on the boat and finished up in Luang Prabang, and got sorted out at our rooms there, and then went for something to eat at the local night market. The night market's quite big there. I mean, lots of the same clothes and things like that, but there's all sorts of different things there, but it goes for quite a wee way. And the food court, outdoor food court thing, it had heaps of different sorts of foods and things like that. It was really cool and great food as well. Then the next morning, we went up to the Kwang Si waterfalls. Beautiful blue water. The waterfalls were really cool. We went up on a tuk-tuk bus up there, and went for a swim, and like water was really nice. Really cool wee spot, and because it's been like so hot here, sort of on average 35 degrees every day, very refreshing. It was very good. And on the way back we stopped for lunch in the village, in a wee village on the way back, and it's like a sort of like a function area or a community point. I think they do like weddings or sort of anything there, and met 5 locals there who put these white strings, one on each hand, and said a blessing for good health and good travel and all that sort of stuff. It was really cool, and it said that you keep them on for 3 days on the both hands if you can, and then after 3 days you can take them off bar one and leave one on if you want. So yeah, which is what I've done there, but that was really cool. And the lunch they put on there, again, phenomenal food. It sounds like all I've done is eat, and it's pretty much about right too. But very, very good, and lovely people. So after that, I think we had a bit of a free afternoon from there on, and so I sort of had a wee bit of a wander around and things like that. In the evening was my first time seeing a storm come through. One hell of a thunderstorm. In New Zealand, I've never seen anything like it, but it goes off. The sky just lights up constantly, like it seems like every second or even more, and comes through really fast, and the rain was just absolutely pouring down. And then to wake up, I think it only lasted probably about an hour or so, and then in the morning when you wake up, you'd have never known that it had even happened. But yeah, pretty impressive to see. I think it was probably about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard the thunder and got up and ended up watching it for probably a good half an hour before I jumped back into bed. So the next day me and a couple of others went on a wee mission, took a couple of minute ferry across, and went up to a place called Flower Park, or Elephant Park. I think it's known as Flower Park. And it was, they had a 1.3 kilometre zip line, so I had to go on that with one of the others, and that was heaps of fun. And then there was some locals there doing like a traditional dance with 2 bamboo sticks, and so I jumped up and had a go at that. That was heaps of fun. They slowed it down for me, which was appreciative, because I think I've got 2 left feet. I've never been much of a dancer at all, even though sometimes I've tried to learn, but really cool. There was pretty much that, just a bit of wandering around again on the next day, and then the day after that we headed off to Vang Vieng, and we did a homestay in a small village just outside of the town, about 15 minutes out. Very small village, and stayed at a local's house that's been set up as like a homestay or that, but the whole village itself, like, very, very simple way of life, and the way they cook and live and things like that, very eye-opening. As Laos itself, very, very poor country. So for an example, I think about 15,000 Lao kip, I think, is about $1.50 New Zealand. So which is what you'd pay for a pack of Marlboro cigarettes. So crazy cheap. The homestay was really interesting. The people I stayed with didn't speak any English at all, so not long after we turned up, the electricity cut out, so we had no electricity for the whole night. So in the homestay, obviously no air conditioning, the only thing there was fans, of course. No electricity, no fan, so very, very warm night sleep. I wasn't feeling too well on that bus trip on the way up. The roads were very, very full of potholes, so very bumpy. And I had quite a headache and a bit of a funny stomach. So even with the heat of that, I had no choice. I think I just passed out and got as much sleep as I needed until from about 10 till 4 in the morning when I woke up. Very interesting. And had breakfast and dinner at the local chief's house, who sort of is in charge of the village and that. Spent quite a bit of the evening just yarning out under the moonlight, which was really cool. And then the next day we headed back into Van Vieng, so short trip, only 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and stayed there at the hotel. And once we got there, we shot off on a trip to kayak the Namsong River, and we arrived. It was probably about an hour and a half max, kayaking along. Not strenuous at all. The rapids were very, 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 very tame. Quite easy going, and there was 2 to a kayak. So it was really nice and good view, and the river was quite nice and clean. And we stopped and had lunch at this restaurant. Again, great food. They had cave tubing there, so we walked through one cave and had a look through there, and then went down, and then there was another cave with water going through, so we jumped in some tire tubes and went through there. And there was some bats in the cave, and spiders and things like that, and tree roots, very long tree roots that have gone through the rock itself and into the cave. and even on the sort of the cliff face, and that you can see the tree roots sort of going in and out the rock face, which must be very, very strong to make its way through that. And then we were back in the kayak and carried on for another probably 30 to 40 minutes to finish off the kayaking, and then back in the tuk-tuk bus to the Blue Lagoon, which there's photos here of. Fish in the water, where you're swimming, rope swing, platform to jump off, which is about 5 meters high. Very relaxing, heaps of fun. And at the moment butterfly season, so there's like butterflies everywhere. It's really, really impressive and cool. And apparently that's only till I think next month, and then they won't be around anymore, so perfect time to be around. So Blue Lagoon, the really cool place to just finish that day off. And then this morning we left Vang Vieng and headed to the capital of Laos, Vientiane. So we've turned up here now and have had lunch, checked in to the hotel, and we stay here for tonight. And then we head over to take a short flight. I think it's only about an hour to Hanoi in Vietnam, and then we'll start that journey heading through down Vietnam. So that'll be very interesting. A few interesting things. One mainly that we were told about is in Laos between 1964 and 1973, so 9 years, every 8 minutes, 24 hours a day, a total of 26 million tons of bombs were dropped through Laos. It's a massive amount. So there must have been horrific to be around in that time while that was going on through the Vietnam War. The local guide said that back earlier, like the grandfathers would pass down stories of what would happen, and the fear of like seeing foreigners, or that especially someone with a beard like myself would be very feared. They would run away and things like that. But these days it's realised that it's not that anymore. It's not the same. So. It must have been a hellish time to be around. The country is again like very, very poor at the moment, and especially with the pandemic on top of everything else. They've had to borrow a lot of money to try and keep things going, and it has put a lot of stress on this country. So, I thought there was a lot of things shit in New Zealand, but it's really opened to my eyes to like how lucky my life has been so far, being born and growing up in New Zealand. It's hard to imagine growing up in that sort of life. But regardless of that, majority of the people seem very happy, which is really cool and incredible. Coming down the Mekong River, because it flows from China right through Indochina all the way to the sea, the one thing that blew me away and was quite heartbreaking was the amount of rubbish that was floating around. Of course, the currents are quite crazy in a lot of parts of the river, so wherever the river sort of ebbs and it's not so flowy, the rubbish just sort of stacks up in there, and there was a lot of it. I've noticed the fishermen and that use some of the plastic bottles and things like in containers as sort of buoys for their nets, for their floating nets and that, to catch fish and that. But the amount that's just going through there is incredible. So which sort of makes me think like all this money we're spending on climate change and things like that, it doesn't seem that anything's being done about this, which is a clearly visible thing that's happening right now. So in the rainy season, apparently, just like after the rainy season, it's the water levels built up and it just washes it all through, and then more keeps coming through the next, like it just doesn't stop. Right from China all the way through. So yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy and heartbreaking. So, but other than that, like, the scenery, it's unbelievable. Yeah, a great wee country, we've got my last night in Laos, as I said, and head tomorrow to Hanoi. So I'll finish this up and go and have a look around VN10 and see what's about, and probably get some laundry done while I'm at it, and prepare for the next part. So until then, I'll catch you guys later.